Okay, so the chat says that we have to start from redo. It is not open to us to get rid of the difficulty. Rather, we have to read it. Just one second. Redo second paragraph. Okay. But Sunki has to tell me which para.
Second paragraph, Rangada.
Second paragraph means it is not open to us.
It is not open. Yes, Rangada. Yes,
Oh.
Rangada. Because
Yes.
last Wednesday Sunki was not in class.
Yeah, right.
I had recorded it, but I hadn't entered it. My mistake. So she later entered.
Okay. So I'll read each sentence and we will see whether it is clear. So Swami is discussing all the different philosophies and then he is eliminating them one by one. So, it is not open to us to get rid of the whole difficulty. The difficulty of what? The problem of imperfection and the physical world, ignorance. It is not open to us to get rid of the whole difficulty by saying that the Jivatman and the Supreme are not one, but eternally different. The one subject to ignorance, the other absolute in being and consciousness, and therefore in knowledge. Okay, so I'll stop here and we will take up. So who is saying that the Jivatman and the Supreme are not one? The Bheda philosophy. Okay? The Christians also think like that. The Christians think that it is impossible for human soul to have unity with God. There is no possibility at all. Okay? So, but in the Veda philosophy, Madhvacharya, he says that essentially they may be the same, but yet there is a difference between the two. Okay? The unity, merging of the individual soul into the divine soul is not possible. Okay? And there are others who say, yes, it is possible because it is unique. They are the same. There is a Shankaran philosophy. Then there is a Ramanuja philosophy which says that essentially same and yet there is a difference. That's why his philosophy is called Bheda, Bheda, Abheda. That means to say there is unity as well as difference. So all these different philosophies are there depending on what level they have reached and what experience they have had of the divine, and all of them are valid at their own levels. Okay, so that's the thing. It is not open to us to get at the whole differently by saying that the Jiva, what is the Jivatman? The Jivatman is the individual soul. The individual soul, the Jivatman and the Supreme are not one, but eternally different. The one subject to ignorance, who is that? The Jivatman. And the other, the Supreme, absolute in being and consciousness, and therefore in knowledge. Or to make it very simple and not use technical words, the individual soul in the beginning is full of ignorance and darkness, whereas the divine is in absolute being and consciousness. So the divine, yeah, you can say also God, and therefore in knowledge. So, for this contradicts the supreme experience. One second. For this contradicts the supreme experience and the whole experience, which is that of unity in being. Many people have experienced that you become the divine. There is even you can become the divine in so many ways. You can enter into him and become one. Essentially, the substance is the same in both, which is that of unity in being. Okay? Unity in being. The substance of the individual soul goes and becomes one with the substance of the divine soul. Whatever difference there may be in action of nature. Nature is below, but essentially your soul can go up and become one. But the nature is that of your body, mind, life, which is below. That can differ. But your consciousness is one with the divine. That is also possible. So saying it is an experience. So how can we say no? It is easier to accept the fact of unity in difference, which is so evident and pervasive in all the building of the universe, and satisfy ourselves with the statement that we are one, yet different, one in essential being and therefore in essential nature, different in soul form and therefore in active nature. So simply saying, it is more easy to accept the Bheda philosophy. Okay? We are essentially one and yet there is a difference between the two. It's true, na? Because my soul and your soul are both essentially divine, and yet we have different functions and we have different personalities. Even souls have different personalities, although essentially the same. How to explain this? Again, you can give an example to yourself. Look at all the mangoes on the tree. Essentially, they are all mangoes. They have the same taste and the same outer color and everything. Yet there is a difference. Their form is different. So this is the Veda philosophy. All souls are essentially divine, essentially, but they are different in their temperament, their function, and their role in the universe. They are all different. And he says it is easier to accept this. Whatever difference there may be in the action of nature. Nature, remember, nature is your body, mind, life. Okay? And body, mind, life is different for everybody. And in body, mind, life, you are not expressing the divine nature, because you can do that only at the supramental level. But if you go up to the spiritual planes of consciousness, your actions will all be human only. But one who is seeing, who is already in the spiritual consciousness will see that although your behavior is human, yet your consciousness is up there, he will be able to see. As they say, in French you have the saying, seul le semblable connaît le semblable. Only the one who is similar to you will recognize the similar in you. Okay? He will not. So one who is in spiritual consciousness will see that your consciousness is merged with the divine, but your behavior is just like an ordinary human being. They are not going to make out. That is why in the Gita also there is a phrase, Tanumashritam. Okay? Those who don't know the divine, they cannot distinguish, and they avajananti mam. Avajananti mam, Krishna says that those who don't know me, they don't know that I am divine because they mistake me in the body. Okay? Tanumashritam avajananti mam. I have taken a human body and therefore they don't know who I am really. Okay? So that's exactly the same thing with other human beings also. It is easier to accept the fact of unity in difference, which is so evident and pervasive in all the building of the universe, and satisfy ourselves with the statement that we are one, yet different, one in essential being, and therefore in essential nature. Just 1 second. Page we have 587. My computer has jumped so. So, yet different. One in essential being, yet different. One in essential being and therefore in essential nature. Different in soul form and therefore in active nature. Soul form also goes on changing. Everybody's souls are different. Essentially one, yet different in function and nature. Very easy to understand that because mother and son are both divine and yet they are totally different. Okay? Mother was into, even the nature is different. Not only the body, but even nature is different because mother was more into painting and music and Srivanga was all into literature and poetry. Okay? There was no music in him, but some faculties of painting manifested themselves in him in jail. Okay? So that's he mentions that. He would understand all about graphic arts. But music, no. There is no mention of his opening to music. Okay. Maybe he did, but we don't know. So I go to the next sentence. Therefore, in activity. But we thereby only state the fact, leaving the difficulty raised by the fact unsolved, how that which belongs in essence, in the essence of its being, to the unity of the Absolute, and should therefore be one with it, and with all in consciousness, comes to be divided in its dynamic form of self and its activity and subject to ignorance. We try to find out the origin of ignorance. The chapter is the origin of ignorance. Remember, however high you climb, definitely ignorance is very, very rampant and very widespread in the level 1. That is our normal consciousness, mental consciousness. Below that, there is no doubt that they are ignorant. Animals are different, very more ignorant than we are. But even in the mental consciousness, man is ignorant. When he goes to the spiritual planes of consciousness, his ignorance reduces. Okay? But still, there is knowledge increases, but ignorance is still there. So that's what Sir is saying. He is trying to find out how this phenomenon is taking place. If all souls are essentially one, because we started with that philosophy, remember, our contention has been, our premise has been that there is Advaita, everything is divine. So on that basis, we have to solve the problem of ignorance. Okay, so, but we thereby only state the fact, leaving the difficulty raised by the fact unsolved. How is it that that can happen? How that which belongs in essence, in the essence of its being, to the unity of the Absolute, and should therefore be one with it, and with all in consciousness, comes to be divided in its dynamic form of self. Dynamic form of self, body, mind, life, dynamic form, and its activity, and subject to ignorance. How can it happen? That's what it does. Note interestingly that the others are very happy with the fact. They will tell you, but that's how it is. What can I do about it? It is true that there is a difference and there is also unity. There is nothing you can do about it. That's the structure of things. So, but Sridhar is not satisfied with it. He has to find an explanation how that is possible. Okay. It is also to be noted, I am reading the next sentence. It is also to be noted that the statement would not be wholly true, since it is possible for the Jivatman to enter into unity with the active nature of the One, and not only into a static essential oneness. So, what Sridhar is saying, in the spiritual fields of consciousness, your identification with the divine can be quite complete. But in the body-mind life, you are still acting like a human being. But Sridhar is saying that's not the only experience. It is also possible to change your body-mind life. Okay, that's what he's saying. That is his main philosophy and main point. And not only it can be changed, but it should be changed. And it has to change. Because the divine has to manifest in the physical world. The divinization of matter itself has to come slowly. First it will come in the individuals, and then it will slowly extend to nature also, slowly. But one thing you must remember, when we say divinization of matter, it doesn't mean that everything will become divine. Okay? Only a small selected part of humanity will become divine. Even including a divine body. Okay? This is interesting, you must remember. A little sample of the divine is being revealed at the physical level. First you start with matter, then, but there is no life. So life comes in next. Okay? Animals are produced. And then mind also comes in. There is matter being changed slowly. Animals are matter with life infused into them. It's as though someone has taken in life and injected it into matter, you have animals. Okay? But then you have also the mentality. And mentality is you take the vitalized matter, which is animal, and inject the substance of mind into it. And the result is your brain. Your brain is matter which has been animated by life and also now given the capacity of thought. So that is the, see, there is a big difference between matter of the brain and matter of your muscles. Muscle matter is only life injected into matter. But the brain is matter with life in it and also with, I'm going a little out of the way to explain to you that a supermental race will be possible. So now the same substance which is capable of life and thought, put some supermental substance into it and it will become the supermental race. So that's exactly slowly that is going to happen in the next evolution. Okay. So but we thereby only state the fact, leaving the difficulty raised by the fact unsolved. How that which belongs in the essence of its being to the unity of the absolute should therefore be one with it and with all in consciousness comes to be divided in its dynamic form of self and its activity and subject to ignorance. Now simply saying, but that's not the only thing. It can be different also. It is also to be noted that the statement would not be wholly true, since it is possible for the Jivatman to enter into unity with the active nature of the one. The active nature of the one is in the physical world, you are active. Okay? That also, the nature can become one, but not the body, mind, life. The nature can become one. The para prakriti, it can enter into you. And not only in a static essential oneness. That static essential oneness is the soul going to the second level and it enters into the Brahman consciousness. Now, he goes further. Or we may escape the difficulty. The difficulty of what? Explaining how there is essentiality one, essentiality in unity, and yet there is difference. Or we may escape the difficulty by saying that beyond or above existence and its problems, there is the unknowable, which is beyond or above our experience, and that the action of Maya has already begun in the unknowable before the world began, and therefore is itself unknowable and inexplicable in its cause and its origin. So he is taking it for granted that unity with the divine is possible because of experience. Now he is saying, but how to explain the difference? He is saying that is unknowable. You can say that. It's impossible to know. That's the solution. The solution to the problem, saying it can never be solved. So we may escape the difficulty by saying that beyond and above existence, the physical world, that means transcendent, and its problems, there is the unknowable which is beyond or above our experience, and that the action of Maya has already begun in the unknowable. Therefore, the world began, and therefore is in itself unknowable and inexplicable in its cause and origin. Now, you may wonder about all this, but I remind you that in the supramental, there are three status, the triple status of the supermind. So, it is possible if you experience the first status, total unity with the divine. But if you enter into the second one, the second status, the difference between the individual soul and the divine soul has begun. You remember I told you about the sea. The sea is absolutely calm and one. No distinction. If the individual soul goes there, it becomes one with the sea. There is no way. Your individuality disappears. Then the second one, the waves start forming. What does that mean? The waves start forming means individuality is possible. The individuality is possible. So at that level, you can see that the problem, the faculty of Maya has begun. And what is Maya? Making the many, the one into the many. The power of the divine to make the one into the many. Okay. So that is Maya has begun there. He's saying this corresponds to the second level of the supramental status. The third level, the difference is more obvious than the unity. In other words, if you want to explain with the image, the wave has become more conscious of its own individuality than the sea. It knows in the background of its mind that it is part of the sea, and yet it gives more importance to the individual. This is the triple status of the supermind. So that's what he is referring to here. Okay? You can argue that the Maya has actually already begun in the oneness. That's the second status of the supermind. Okay, so it can be said. And therefore it is itself unknowable and inexplicable, but it is not possible for us to know because we are below that experience. Okay. Level 2 of the spiritual planes of consciousness is different from level 3 of the supramental plane. Therefore, it is unknowable to us. But it is knowable if you go to the supermind, and that's not easy. Okay, so has already begun the world there. I go to the next sentence. This would be a sort of idealistic as opposed to a materialistic agnosticism. Now, the materialistic agnosticism, it is impossible to know God, even if he exists. First of all, he may not exist, and even if he exists, it is not possible for us to go. That's a materialistic agnosticism. But the idealistic, the words, remember, I've told you, level 2, the spiritual planes of consciousness, so there is a word ideal. The ideal planes. So that is level 2. Okay, the ideal planes of consciousness. So this would be a sort of idealistic, materialistic agnosticism. Idealistic agnosticism. In other words, I have entered into the divine, but I cannot explain how this difference has come. That's it. Total, to explain how this difference has come is not possible. That's what he said. This would be a sort of idealistic as opposed to a materialistic agnosticism. I hope it is clear. Materialistic agnosticism at level 1. Not everybody, but definitely very large scale. It is there. Most men are materialistic. And even if you believe that God is there, you cannot know him. But the idealistic is, it's not possible for us to go and have the total experience of the divine. But all agnosticism is subject to this objection that it may be nothing but our refusal to know, a too ready embracing of an apparent and present restriction or constriction of consciousness. So one who says that maybe it's not possible to realize the divine, you can always argue back, you have not tried enough. Why don't you try enough? Then you'll go. That's what they're saying. But all agnosticism is subject to this objection, that it may be nothing but our refusal to know. Even if it is not refusal, at least it is incapacity to know. Okay? A too ready embracing of an apparent and present restriction or constriction of consciousness. Look at the way he uses words. Okay? Apparent, first of all. Present restriction. Present means you are in the level 2, you are not going to level 3. Okay? Or you may say the consciousness is constricted. It is so made that I cannot go beyond. But that's a refusal. Because in this way you can go. Okay? In another place, if you remember, he has said that whatever is there in the universe, whatever is there, from the highest to the lowest, man has the capacity to know it. There are instruments of knowledge by which he can know anything that is there in the universe. Okay? But you have to find the right instrument for that. You can't do it with your senses. Okay? You can't. Even with the subtle senses, you can't. That's what he said. So, refusal to know, a too ready embracing, too ready. Very easily you are accepting this difficulty of not being able to realize the divine fully. Too ready embracing of an apparent and present restriction or constriction of consciousness. A sense of impotence. So this difference between restriction and constriction is clear. Restriction is at present. There is a limitation in my consciousness. But constriction means my consciousness is only at that level. I cannot go beyond. The consciousness cannot go beyond that. That's the difference between restriction and constriction. A sense of impotence which may be permitted to the immediate limitations of the mind, but not to the Jivatman who is with the Supreme. So Sridhar is saying, the normal human mind, you can say that yes, it is true, that there is a limitation to that mind. Okay? Because pure mind is different from higher mind. So, but the limit is in the mind, but not to the Jivatman, because Jivatman is essentially, the Jivatman is not your mind, it's a divine essence. So that argument also will fail. The Supreme must surely know himself and the cause of ignorance. And the Supreme, the Jivatman can become the Supreme. So if you become the Supreme, then you will know the reason for everything. The Supreme must surely know himself and the cause of ignorance. And therefore, the Jivatman has no ground to despair of any knowledge or deny his capacity of knowing the integral Supreme and the original cause of his own present ignorance. In other words, when man says that he cannot know the divine, it is he accepting his own incapacity. But that's a defeatist attitude. You need not do that. You can say that try more and you will get it. That's what it is. So, this paragraph is interesting. I'll just read out the summary to you in my own words. In this paragraph, Sri Aurobindo rejects the three more theories as unacceptable. And what are those theories? We have eliminated Mayavada as a solution to the problem of ignorance, entering knowledge of the Brahman. Now, we also eliminate the dualistic philosophy which asserts that the Jivatman and the Supreme are eternally separate. So Sridhar says it may be true at its own level, but I don't subscribe to it as permanent. It cannot be permanent. Union is not possible, but relations may exist, says the philosophy of Dvaita. Okay. Dvaita, not Advaita, but Dvaita. But relations may exist. Jivatman is ever in ignorance and the Supreme is ever in knowledge. Dualism is rejected because it contradicts the spiritual experience of complete union. Dualism may be valid as an experience, but it has no right to assert its experience as the only truth and permanent. It has no right to do it. Rather, we may accept the view of Vishishta Advaita or Bheda Bheda that says union and difference is possible. This is a principle that is seen perversely in the cosmos, the individual variations but similarities within a species. I gave you the example of mangoes on a mango tree, but the same is also there in every species. Every cat is essentially a cat, and yet each one is different. Not only different in the color of its skin, okay, its fur rather, not skin, fur, and also its nature. Some cats are very passive, some cats are aggressive. Even the nature can differ. So that's it. Bheda Bheda. Okay, that's possible. This is a principle that is seen pervasively, very commonly in the universe. Individual variations, but similarities within a species. Unity and multiplicity. Although acceptable as a fact, the theory only states the fact, but explains nothing. How can difference exist in unity? That's a problem we have to solve. So here we must note knowledge and ignorance are not eternal foes. To think that they are opposites is not correct. It is possible for the Jivatman to enter into unity with the active Brahman and not only the passive Brahman. Nirguna, Saguna. Nirguna, you become the Brahman. Saguna, you have a relation with the divine. This is what Simla is saying. All these are possible. A third view, which we will reject, is the idea that beyond the manifested universe, there is an unknowable and a process of Maya, dividing the one into the many. That's the definition of Maya. The capacity to divide the one into the many may have begun in the unknowable itself. As I told you, in the supermind, second status, that's it. The division of the one into the many. So the problem is insoluble and ineffable too. But this is tantamount to admitting ignorance of the process of Maya. It is the admission of human ignorance itself. One may call it the idealistic agnosticism in contrast to the materialistic agnosticism. But agnosticism in any form is open to the rebuttal that it is really an unwillingness to seek a solution. Try hard enough. Why aren't you trying hard enough? A too easy acceptance of the fait accompli without further investigation. A fait accompli is a French that which is settled, a settled fact, without further investigation. But you can always go on investigating more and you will be able to get rid of your limitations. Certainly, the Supreme knows itself and the Jivatman, one with him in essence, cannot plead ignorance or helplessness. That may be the pessimism of Mayavadi. Okay? That's what is the summary of what is said today in this paragraph. 8:30, we have 10 minutes. We can read the next one. Okay? The unknowable, the unknowable, if it is at all. So, now he is taking up again that argument of the unknowable. The divine is unknowable. So, someone has to read. Kiran, can you read? Okay, read the para. The unknowable, if it is at all. I think
unknowable.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The unknowable, if it is at all, may be a supreme state of Satchidananda, beyond our highest conceptions of existence, consciousness, and bliss. That is what was initially meant by the Asat, the non-existent of Taittiriya Upanishad, which alone was in the beginning and out of which the existent was born. Possibly, too, it may be the inmost sense of nirvana of the Buddha. For the dissolution of our present state by nirvana may be a reaching to some high state beyond all notion or experience of even of self even, an ineffable release from our sense of existence. Or it may be the Upanishads' absolute and unconditioned bliss, which is beyond expression and beyond understanding, because it surpasses all that we can conceive of or describe as consciousness and existence. This is the sense in which we have already accepted it, for the acceptations commits us only to a refusal to put a limit to the ascension of the infinite. Or, if it is not this, if it is something quite different from existence, even from an unconditioned existence, it must be the absolute non-being of the nihilistic thinker.
Okay, so I will tell you what he is saying. We will read the summary. Okay, what he is saying. We get the basic. He is going on eliminating one by one all theories. Okay, and coming to the crux of the matter. Now, he is taking up this one. Okay, so he is saying regarding the unknowable. There are many who say there is unknowable. Even if you go to the spiritual plane of consciousness, the divine is unknowable. You can have a relation with them. Regarding the unknowable, the question is an open one. Is there really some ultimate reality which we can say is unknowable? And if it is so, what could it be? What is it that we could say that's never we can come to know? That's what it is. Then, to continue, he says, could it be that Satchidananda itself is beyond our highest conception of Satchitananda? We may know Satchitananda separately, but could it be that it is always beyond our highest conception? Our maximum capacity of the human being will not be enough to lead the Satchidananda? Is it that? He is asking a question. It could be that it is what the Taittiriya Upanishad referred to when it spoke of the Asat, that absolute existence without any describable features? Or is there some other thing? Or could it be that the absolute featureless origin, out of which existence, which features arose, is it that? Or could this be the same thing as the nirvana of Buddhism, the negation of all existence carried to the extreme of the Buddha? Or again, could it be the Upanishad's absolute unconditioned bliss beyond all human understanding? When the integral view speaks of the unknowable, that is the Upanishadic sense in which it is accepted. And in that sense, they are committed to only to the limitless, infinite ascension of consciousness. In other words, the human mind cannot know. In that sense, it is unknowable. If not all these things, it can only be the non-being of the Buddhistic nihilism. So this is what we said. But today is already 8:33, there are only 3 minutes or so left. So we'll do this tomorrow again. Okay? Tomorrow is also live divine. So tomorrow we'll go through this para. It's a very small para. And we're examining all the different possibilities, theories, and rejecting them one by one. Because remember, he's saying it is possible to know the cause of ignorance. The others are saying very difficult to know. Some are saying impossible to know. And some are saying absolute knowledge may not even be there. Okay? Only ignorance is there everywhere. That's a materialistic pillar. So we'll take it up tomorrow and we'll see. So we have to redo this pattern. The unknowable if it is at all. On page 589.
Yes, I'll make a note.
Yeah. So, au revoir, everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Rangada. Thank you, Rangada.
Thank you, Rangana.
Thank you, Rangana.